this war has greatly changed up, or at least seems to be, has the potential to greatly change up energy markets, which is something that Russia has been a big player in. And I wonder if you could just touch on how Russia has used energy as a weapon, and how this war may be affecting the strategic use of energy.
Right. There are a lot of dimensions to that, but let me just touch on a few. One of the interesting things about this war, and when I'm saying this war, I'm talking about really since 2022, the onset of 2022. There's a lot of conversation and a lot of analysis about Russia's use of energy as a weapon. And most of the attention was really focusing on the supply, the delivery, like pipelines, in particular was a big thing, and how using those pipelines to, turn the spigot on and off to affect both the volume and price. I think one of the interesting things going into this part of the conflict was that really the energy competition, weaponization was really had to do with storage facilities and racing on the part of Europe to fill their storage facilities prior to the meat of winter in 2022. And I think what caught the Russians by surprise was how quickly and effectively Europeans did that, and then how much they were willing to either reduce their consumption on the margins or pay a higher price and diversify some of their sources. But I think the big strategic picture about Russia and energy and energy in this conflict is, one, I think energy for a while now has been a waning asset for Russia in terms of its geostrategic influence. Yes, there's been a lot of attention to natural gas, but the natural gas landscape has changed since 2009 when they cut off Ukraine last, and even in 2014. You've seen the emergence of unconventionals, and I would argue really the increasing development of LNG, which allows for much more flexible supply. And you've seen prices at a level that is rationalized, bringing those unconventionals onto the market. And as those unconventionals have been brought more onto the market, there's been technological innovation. So in fracking, such that not only is it a little bit cleaner than it was earlier on, although there's still some problems with it. I don't want to say we're out of the woods on that, but you can turn it on and off. And that's really been the secret to the United States in being a balancer, a global balancer of prices with respect to bringing hydrocarbons on. It's not that we're going to displace OPEC or OPEC plus, but we can act as a balancer. When the prices get too high, we can release reserves on there. So all of this is to say that Russia's ability to use natural gas as a lever, and that's really the only lever they had. Oil is what they use to generate revenue that can pay for the war, and so that's why oil is getting a lot of attention. But oil as an instrument to lord over another country has not really been the focal point of their energy weaponization. Now, gas was, but gas has really been declining. And then as much as the energy transition in Europe was gathering steam, and Europe, remember, is the largest customer for Russia's established natural gas, and where all their infrastructure, or the lion's share of their infrastructure, is oriented towards, then that's a problem for them. And I think that going into this war, the Kremlin recognized that natural gas is not their cudgel, and it's not going to be a long-term cudgel. It would have short-term impact, as we talked about before, but I think they saw the writing on the wall. What I think the war has also done is, when we started this, we thought we were going to be on a horn of a dilemma. Do we invest in hydrocarbons today at the expense of kicking down the energy transition and sustainability further down the road? Well, I think what we're seeing in Europe is they're willing to do both. And actually, the promise in this space, because it's really been focused on not about opening up new supplies, it's creating new transit options, supply lines, pipelines, LNG. And as they build those facilities up, one of the interesting real innovations in the energy space has to do with carbon capture and utilization, right? Converting carbon from the atmosphere into liquids that can be then used in the existing liquid hydrocarbon infrastructure to push out or use for storage. right? Because one of the problems with solar and hydro and all these other renewables is that we're still trying to figure out the cost of bringing it out of the ground or out of the sky. But then we haven't really factored in the cost of getting it out to the consumer or storing it. And that's where hydrocarbons and the liquid infrastructure can be converted over time. And so an investment in building out interconnectors in Europe today to facilitate gas flows between European countries, taking LNG from Qatar or from other places, is not throwing good money today away for tomorrow, because we're investing in these interconnectors that could potentially be used to flow clean hydrocarbons in the future. And so in that regard, I see, you see European countries really moving on. Nuclear in some countries has been given another opportunity. Hydrogen, which is part of the story that I've just been telling you, has been getting a lot of attention. So these are the two things that I would argue. And then, of course, the more that Europe transitions along this line, the weaker Russia's instrument of leverage over them is going to be. The challenge, I think, is going to be what happens when we're done with this war and we're done with this regime, and we need to bring Russia back into the fold. Where are they going to fit into this mess? Because they're no longer going to be, just providing hydrocarbons. They're going to have to catch up. Maybe it's hydrogen. Maybe it's nuclear power. But we're going to have to figure that one out. And that's, but it's going to be a different landscape than it is today.